I went to his house and I shot him in the head with a gun, but the gun broke in my hand, so it got stuck in his skull, but didn't penetrate all through. And he ran out of the house. Robert Borelli is a born-again Christian who got saved in prison, redeemed by the blood of Jesus, and now lives a life devoted to Jesus Christ. Okay. That's who Robert Borelli is. Okay. Now, Robert Engel is somebody different. Going into the witness protection program, after I did my prison time, the marshals picked me up, and they fly me to some place, I'm not sure exactly what it is, maybe Maryland, Virginia, somewhere's over there. And they place you in a room and they say you can keep your first name, but you have to change your last name. So they're gonna remake me, basically. Kind of like really being born again, physically, by the government though. So they asked me for a new last name, so I gave them one and they said, no, that's no good. And that happened like 2 or 3 times. And they said that you're not giving us a good enough name. So I happened to be watching this show while I was in this room, MASH, and there was a MASH unit has to send for a specialist named Dr. Borelli to come to the MASH unit and do the special operation. So when they came in, I gave them the name Borelli, and they came back and he said, that's your name. So that's how Robert Borelli came about, the name. I mean, what made me more dangerous than most people is I didn't value my life. In other words, I put myself out there a lot of times that I should have got killed. I was just part of the life. I mean, basically, you're living in the streets, there's chances that you're gonna get killed.
Did you have any concept, though, of like what would happen to you after you died? Was that even something that you thought about?
No, you know, I live day to day, man. I didn't live with any future life after this or future for tomorrow. I mean, that's why I was never really a big money maker. I made money, but I spent it just as quick as I made it, either gambling, going out, drugs, whatever it is. So I lived day to day. That was just kind of the lifestyle I lived. Unfortunately, when I look back at it now, it's like, dang, I mean, how could you even believe? I mean, how did you even come up with these things in your mind, in your life? I mean, it's just weird. You know, look what I put my family through. My youngest brother was born 8 years after me. So I was the baby of the family for 8 years. And as the baby of the family, I got a lot of attention. When he was born, that attention was put on him because he was now the baby. And I think I was just craving for the attention and acceptance. And, you know, just in the streets back in Brooklyn, the guys played ball together. We did everything together. So we just hung out. And when things were different, you know, like when we were just gonna hang out, not playing ball, we would hang out on the stoop and, you know, just do stupid things, rank on one another and all those kind of things. So you kind of develop where people say, oh, they're part of the FNR because we hung out on Fulton and Rockaway. And then when you left your neighborhood, you know, like you had mentioned, and I think I'm going ahead of you on certain things, but there were certain neighborhoods that I want to make sure I say it the right way. Not so much prejudice, but you had different portions of the neighborhood were for different types of people. Basically, in Brooklyn, New York, we had gangs. So if you had 5 or 6 guys would hang out, like I was part of the FNR. I lived on Fulton Street right off of Rockaway Avenue, and we hung out on Fulton and Rockaway, so we called the FNR. Then you had a group called the Railroad Boys. They hung out in Bushwick on the railroad tracks, so we called them the Railroad Boys. So you keep doing that back and forth there. And so you had gangs. Every 4 blocks that you walked out of your neighborhood, you were going into somebody else's neighborhood. And if you went in somebody else's neighborhood, you were messing with their turf, so to speak. And that's when the friction used to start. Rikers Island is the second most violent prison in the United States. But in reality, it's not really a prison. It's still a county jail where you get brought there pending your case, where you can't get any bail or the bail's too high, you can't get out. It's more of a holding place. But you can do either a year or less at Rikers Island. So it's not really a prison, it's really a jail. It's very gang-related. But the amazing thing is some of the guards that guard you are part of the gangs in the streets because they come from the neighborhood. Once was I had a fight, and so they put you up. So once was I got tested and found drugs in my urine and got put in solitary confinement for that. And once was when I was in the witness protection program, people found out where I was, so they had to put me in solitary confinement.
No. What is it like being in solitary confinement for those that have never had that experience?
Well, I mean, not getting out of your cell just for 1 hour a day is when you're allowed to get out. You're not around other inmates. You get out, either take a shower, make a couple of phone calls, whatever you want to do for that 1 hour, but you're confined to your cell. So they bring you your food. You don't go out for food or nothing like that. So it's solitary. You're by yourself most of the time. In federal prison, if they put me in solitary confinement, I would do something stupid, which most mob guys didn't approve of. Cut myself up, and they let me out. Pretend I hung myself, and they let me out. So I did things to get out of solitary confinement. I had a knack of trying to get myself out of messes all the time, so I was pretty good at doing that. But I found out later on that they didn't understand me so much, and that was kind of a dark mark on my life, that I did that there to get out of solitary confinement. I felt completely hopeless. Nobody wanted to help me. I didn't get any, not even my own family, in a sense, thought I was better off in jail. And I understand the concept because I'm sure my mom, my sister, my brothers worried, when they're gonna get that phone call, come to the morgue and identify your brother. So I understand, at least they knew I was still alive and they knew where I would be. So I understand that. With Nikki and them, I understood the embarrassment I brought and all that. I did understand it. But at that point in time, I felt, not saying it was true, but what I felt was nobody loved me. Nobody cared about me anymore. Here I am, by myself in prison, can't get any help from anybody, can't get any money for commissary, can't get any money for an attorney, can't get anything. And that one person one time said, why don't you go read the Bible? And I was asking for money for commissary, and I figured, okay, they just don't want to give me any money, go read your Bible, go brush off. And I remembered that. So when my daughter cried, I ran back to my cell and I cried out to Jesus. And I started reading that Bible. But when I was reading how much God loved me, when I felt everybody else didn't, made me want to know more about this God that loved me in spite of everything that I was doing with and everything that I've done already. So it just drove me for more hunger and a thirst. And I just started following the Bible. That's all I started doing. And still today, I do the same thing. And I have struggles too. Not everybody, I do have struggles. But I learned that when I resist those temptations in a numerous period of time, the temptations get less. John Gotti was very feared and respected. So, I mean, that's, if you heard John Gotti's name, he was a household name after a while. I mean, I think, from my understanding, I think he was on the Time magazine 2 or 3 different times, which is really something. So he was kind of a household. If you mention John Gotti, anywhere in the world probably would know John, well, anywhere in the United States anyway. Something happened where somebody got shot. And of course, in the certain neighborhoods, if anybody got shot, I would be the prime suspect with the mob or the law. Somebody got shot and paralyzed, and John Gotti used to have a feast on 101st Avenue, And I was hanging out on 108th Street and 101st Avenue. And somebody, I think, went and told him Robert Engel's around and he's gonna shoot up the neighborhood, which was no truth, I don't know. So he sent some people to come and get me from his crew and bring me back to him. And when they approached me, I always carried a gun, but I didn't pull it out or anything. I just let them know, no. The first they asked me, do you have a gun? They said, you give it to me. I ain't giving you my gun. Am I an idiot? And they said, well, Johnny wants to see you. I said, well, tell Johnny that he needs to go through Nicky if he wants to see me, because Nicky was the guy I was underneath. I had no business talking with John Gotti on a personal level.
I'm free basic coke with this guy. Well, I'm out of my mind. All my life was the next one, more coke. Now my father's in jail doing 40 years, so I'm like in a dark place. And my sister marries him. I get clean. I go to treatment in 1988. While I'm in treatment, my sister is pregnant. She has a baby shower. The next morning, I call my wife up to find out how the shower went. And I get on the phone and my wife tells me, that son of a bitch, last night he almost killed your mother. I go, who are you talking? He goes, Frankie. I heard screaming and yelling because we live upstairs from my mother. I ran downstairs and he was choking your mother. He had her on the floor and he was choking her. And I jumped on him. I scratched his face. He threw me up against the wall. He ran out of the house. I was like, what, are you kidding me? Right? So now I'm in treatment. I'm in Vermont in the dead of winter in treatment. So I get out and my mother is terrified. Forget it. Don't do nothing. He'll kill you. He's crazy. So I go see Tony. Now I go see Tony Lee, who was my father's partner. He's a made guy. I go see Tony and I tell him, Frankie beat my mother up. And he tells me, I know. So I looked at him, I go, you know? I said, well, what are we gonna do? He goes, we're gonna clip him. And now I'm raised in that life. Like, now here my sister's pregnant with this guy's baby, and he tells me we're gonna clip him, and I say, all right, and I'm fine with it. So now in the mob, Hill knows, in the mob you just can't kill people. You gotta get permission, because they call murder work. Like when we were in the street, if somebody would tell me, like, he's a good guy, he did work, I know he murdered somebody, or he's a good guy, I know he murdered somebody. So you got to get permission to commit a murder, because murder brings heat, people get arrested. So you just can't randomly kill people or you would get killed. So now Tony says, we're going to clip him, but we're going to do it the right way. So now I have to go visit my old man. So I go to visit my old man in the prison. He's in Virginia with Letty, in Petersburg, Virginia. Because now they all made up. Mickey made up. They all made up. My father and all of them made friends. We'll tell that story in a little while. So I go to the prison and I tell my father. Now you got to remember, guys like my father are egomaniacs. He'll tell you they're egomaniacs. I tell my father, Frankie beat mommy up. The first words out of my father's mouth was, what does he think, I'm dead? He made it all about him. What does he think, I'm dead? I go, listen, evidently he really don't give a shit about you or anybody because he beat mommy up. So I tell him, I said, we want to clip him. But she said, so he gives it. Now this is the mob. Here I am, I'm a son visiting the father, and the father is giving me permission to commit a murder. That's the mob mentality. And we're having a conversation like we're eating, over a cup of coffee. Oh yeah, we're gonna go kill this guy. All right, yeah. And he goes, okay. And he gives me permission to commit the murder. I go back to Ozone Park and I tell Tony Lee, my father okayed it. Now we sent for Jeannie Gotti, who's a captain, because we got to get permission now from John. He's the boss. We sent for Jeannie Gotti and we tell Jeannie what happened, that we want to kill Frankie. He goes to John, who's the boss now. John loved my mother. For some reason, John Gotti loved my mother. And I had a good relationship with John. No matter how flawed I was, he always looked out for me. And Jeannie comes back and says, my brother okayed it. Now it's okay. Now my sister's still pregnant. She didn't give birth yet. So this is how could I say, this is how wonderful we are. So we decide we're not going to kill them till after the baby's born, because we don't want my sister to have a miscarriage or anything. That's how sick we are. So now we wait till my sister has the baby, and everything's planned already, how we're going to kill him. I'm going to pick him up. We're going to tell him the story about that, because he was a stick-up guy. We totally had a safe house in South Ozone Park that had a lot of drug money in it, and he was going to go there and rob it, and we just wanted a piece, and we had everything set up. They were going to take him out on a boat, throw him in the Atlantic Ocean, and everything set up. So we wait till the christening. Now we're at my niece's christening, and he's there, and we're going to kill this guy next week. And he's there, and we're laughing, taking pictures with him. I mean, this is how sick me and him became. We're taking pictures with him and laughing. And then the day comes, we're going to kill him. I pick him, I go by my sister's house, I pick him up. He comes in my car, he had shorts on and a t-shirt, a note, socks and shoes. So I know he has no weapons on him or nothing. Now, I got to bring him there, and now I can't let this guy know what's going on because he's dangerous. He'll jump out of the car, whatever he's going to do. So I'm talking, laughing, he kisses me hello, and we're in the car, and I drive to the club, and Mikey Gow, who was Tony's brother, is sitting outside. I pull up, and I'm calm. I'm calm. I pull up, and Mikey's outside the club, and we get out of the car. Mikey, like we kissed before, Mikey shakes his hand and kisses him hello, and we walk in the club. And as I walk in the club, he's in front of me. I hear Mikey, because they locked the door from the outside. When I heard the door lock, that's when I got nervous. I got a little nervous, and they were sitting up at the counter, and they had bagels and everything. And we went up to the counter, and Tony made me and him bagels, and we're eating bagels and drinking coffee, and we're laughing and talking. And Tony Lee had a garden. Remember the garden he had in the back Cafe Liberty? He had a garden, tomatoes and everything. So we go in, so he says, come on, Frankie, let me give you some vegetables. And me, him, and Frankie go in the garden, and he picks vegetables. Tony puts them in a paper bag, and he hands Frankie a paper bag. And as we're walking back into the back of the club, Tony grabbed his arm and said, wait, I want to talk to you. And I kept walking. And when I got back to the bar, I gave Dominic, I said, Dominic, go. And Dominic grabbed the gun from under the counter and put it behind his back. And he went back there and he killed him, and he shot him.
Well, I was big with freebasing, and he was one of the guys that used to be a good cook for freebasing. So he turned me on to freebasing because I was getting really bad with the coke. And I was getting a lot of coke in. But instead of selling it, I was throwing parties with it. And he would be the guy that would cook for us. And then we get high together. And then after a while, I just noticed that we should be getting a lot more out of this bag that I brought over, and we're not getting it. So this one time, somebody had mentioned to me that he would wear 2 pairs of pants, one pair over the other, and he would stash the bottle that was being cooked in his second pair of pants and take out one, and it will look like there's no more coke left because freebasing, you have to cook it and stuff. So this one time I got very suspicious, and we're getting high together, and I couldn't understand. He wanted to go home because we ran out, and usually I'm the guy that goes out and gets the coke to start the party all over again. And somebody said, I think he's robbing you. So after a period of time, I think I caught him robbing me, and he went home, and I went to his house, and I shot him in the head with a gun, but the gun broke in my hand, so it got stuck in his skull, but it didn't penetrate all through. And he ran out of the house. It was a big apartment building, an apartment, and from my understanding, he got hit by an ambulance, and they took him to the hospital. You can't make these stories up, trust me. But he kept his mouth shut. Didn't say I was the guy that shot him in the head.
So that's interesting, right? So,
You know what's even more interesting? 2 months later, me and him getting high together. If God would have told me everything he was going to put me through to get to where I am today, it would only leave me in prison.
And that's why I struggle, not as much as I used to with the why me thing, because like Frankie didn't have a chance to get with God. Little Joe didn't have a chance to get with God. Philly didn't have a chance to get with God. All these guys that died or were murdered. And, you know, I played a hand in them not getting with God. So why me? That's what I say. Why me? Why did these people die before they knew you and I got it and I didn't? Like, why? Why? Maybe, I don't, you know, I still don't know why. I think it's because maybe what I do now, but, you know, the couple of people I have touched that helped.
Well, I look at it like this here. I want to make sure I don't sound too self-righteous in the sense, but you're honestly more interested in saving people's lives as far as from alcohol, drugs, and all that kind of thing. Me, I'm more interested in saving people's souls.